Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Viv, and today I am here with Paisley, and welcome back to another episode of Doll Size It. I have been doing a lot of episodes of Doll Size It recently, so if you want to check out the full playlist of every single episode of Doll Size It that has ever existed, you can click the card in the top right hand corner right now, because then it will take you to a playlist of everything that I've done. I've done 2 of these episodes of the series recently, and they were both Reformation dresses, but we are taking a break from Reformation outfits today, and we are going to be doll sizing this really adorable red gingham dress that I found on Pinterest, and I will insert a couple pictures here. Now, I'm not entirely certain, but I believe the original dress is from Shein. It is a square neckline red gingham dress with a really cool bow back, and that's what I have created here. So I will show you. There's the front of the dress, and here is the back of the dress. So I won't lie, this dress that I've created here is a little bit of a hot mess, and you will be able to see the reason why, because in the tutorial, I'm loosely going to call this a tutorial. It's really more like a sew with me, because I had to go through a lot of trial and error to get to the point where this dress is, and honestly, if I could redo this dress, like make it again, I definitely would, because there are some areas that I want to clean up and fix. But overall, I think this dress is really cute, and hopefully this tutorial, in quotation marks, gives you a little bit of inspiration and direction on how you can go about creating this dress for yourself. So let's go ahead and get started.
So the first thing I did to create this dress was I cut out a circle skirt using my American Girl circle skirt pattern, which will be linked in the description box down below. It is free to use and available on my blog, but I cut that out with my red gingham fabric. And then I hung that up on a little clothes hanger. You can just use a regular like human size clothes hanger instead of a doll one, but I will get into the reason why I do that later, but you want to have that like hung up for at least a day. So in the meantime, we can work on the bodice. I first cut out 2 sleeves, 1 front piece, and then for the back pieces, I decided to extend them a little bit just because I thought that that would help me create the bow back, but I didn't end up needing to do this. So if you're going to do this project for yourself, just cut out the back pieces like you normally would. And for the front bodice, obviously what you want to do is just cut it out normally. I cropped mine a little bit so that it would hit nicer on the waist, but I cropped it a little bit too short. So when you're doing this, just make sure that you are wary of the length and make it longer so that you can always take it in later on in the dressmaking process. And then what I did is with the bodice piece folded in half, I just cut out a square neckline. And then I started to assemble the bodice like I would a normal t-shirt by first attaching the back pieces at the shoulder seam to the front piece and laying it out flat like this. And if you're doing this project for yourself, you might run into like this problem here, which is where the shoulder seams of the back piece and front piece don't line up because of the alterations we made to the neckline. So if that happens, just make sure that you line up the pieces at the side where the arm side is so that that curve is nice and even. And then if you have to trim off any extras, do that from the side that has the neckline. Then you can go ahead and attach the sleeves to either side. And flipped right sides out, it'll look something like this. So to clean finish the neckline of the bodice, we're going to use a facing technique. So what I did is I cut off the selvage of my little fabric scrap, and then I sewed it right sides together with the bodice. And when you're doing this, at the corners of the square neckline, so where it pivots, you want to notch the seam allowance as well as the facing itself. And what that does, it allows the fabric to just maneuver a little bit better and be able to pivot at the corners to create nice sharp corners in the neckline. So once you have that all sewn in place, go ahead and flip the facing to the wrong side of the fabric to reveal your nice clean neckline, and then pin that in place and top stitch it down. So going back to the skirt, this is a day later, and the purpose of hanging a circle skirt is because it's cut on the bias, it will warp, and eventually that will make the circle skirt uneven if you hem it. So you want to let it hang, and then afterwards take it off the hanger, lay it flat with the pattern on top, and then trim off where you see that the circle skirt has warped and created an uneven hemline, as you can see that I'm doing here. For me, I was actually lucky and it didn't warp that much, so my hemline wasn't really that uneven. And like I kind of didn't care at this point because I knew that this dress wasn't going to turn out the way I wanted it to, so I just kind of YOLO'd this part, if you will. So once you trim your skirt and it's nice and even, go ahead and take the bodice and face it right sides together with the skirt and sew them in place along the waist. So at this point, this is where I started running into trouble. So here I have the dress placed on my doll here, Paisley. You can see she's modeling it. And at the back, it was a little bit too big. So what I started to do is that I went ahead and I trimmed off a good portion of the back of the skirt so that it would be a little bit more fitted. And you can see also that I'm trimming off that back extension of the back part of the bodice. So like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to do that because it'll just get cut off anyways. So then I took the dress off my doll and I sewed up the back seam, just facing it right sides together, and I sewed the skirt leaving the bodice portion open, so just on the skirt seam. And eventually I switched that and I did a flat spell seam instead of this like right sides together one, but you can do whatever, it doesn't matter. And then I realized that I had to pick open the waist seam a little bit, like an inch on either side, to help me create the bow back. So that's what I'm doing here. If you are making this dress for yourself, you can just skip this step entirely by sewing on the bodice, starting in from an inch on one end and ending an inch away from the other end. Then with the dress back on my doll, I kind of pinned it in place to where I wanted to secure the tightness of the skirt later, because I'm going to put a snap there. And then I went on to work on the bodice. So basically what I'm doing with the bodice is I'm first cutting that rectangular side that I trimmed earlier when I was trimming off the skirt. I just split it in two so that I would have two rectangular tabs, and then I had to cut down the other side that still had that triangular extension, so I just cut it and made it a straight rectangle. And then I repeated the same thing where I cut that in half, not completely in half, but just enough so that I would have enough space to create tabs. And then I folded these rectangles into triangles and I top stitched them into place. So for whatever reason, my sewing machine decided it wanted to have issues today when I was doing this. So the stitching is a little bit of a hot mess, but from a distance it doesn't look that bad. But what I'm basically doing now is I'm taking some snap closures and I am attaching one to either side of the triangle. So the open side is going to go on one triangle, and then the triangle across from it is going to get the other side of the snap so that it closes up, kind of like Velcro, but instead we're using snaps and it will make a cool triangle looking back. And I'm also going to attach one at the skirt where I pinned it earlier, just so that it would create like an overlap. So when I release that, it will go on the doll a little bit easier, but then when I tighten it, then it fits snugly on my doll. And to make this look a little bit less ugly and to emphasize the bow back on the actual dress, like the original one that I'm doll sizing, I created some fabric bows just using scraps of fabric that I had when I was making this project, and then I'm going to sew them on top of where the snaps go with a needle and thread. And finally, I am going to hem the circle skirt so that the bottom is all nice and clean. And here's what the finished product looks like. From the front, I don't think it's that bad, but like the back is a little messy. And like I mentioned earlier, if I were to do this dress again, I totally would. I just have to go pick up more fabric for it. I think with a little bit of practice and probably better measurements, that I could make it look really cute and more similar and more clean to the one that I am doll sizing that is from Shein. But overall, I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and I think it's pretty cute.
So anyways guys, that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this and other American Girl doll sewing tutorials, outfit videos, hairstyle videos, and more. And if you have any suggestions on what you would like to see me doll size in this series, be sure you let me know in the comment section down below, or you can send me a picture on Instagram. My Instagram is @dolly_delights, just like how my YouTube channel is spelled. So yeah, I don't have anything else to ramble about now, and I will let you guys go for this video. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time in my next one. Bye!